Hello, future knitters. Gail Colmar here. I intend to take you through all the beginner knitting skills of casting on with a long tail cast on, holding your needles, tensioning your yarn in your left hand, as in Continental knitting, making knit stitches, making purl stitches, alternating knits and purls to get different types of fabrics, binding off in pattern, and weaving in your ends. If you are a brand new knitter or just really want a solid review, then I recommend sitting down with a hot beverage in your hands and watching the entire video beginning to end. Then once you have the overall game plan and basic concepts, go ahead and grab some yarn and needles and start working through each section. Let me know in the comments if you have any further questions or anything else I can help you with. And as always, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Let's go. We have a skein of yarn. I've got 2 double pointed needles, and I am going to breeze through how to do basic knitting. The long tail is over my thumb. I'm going to grab that yarn and come in from the back and twist it, and that is my first stitch. I now have what looks like a diamond. I'm going to drop it, and I have rabbit ears. I'm going to come up my thumb into that loop, and I'm going to go behind the strand on my first finger and pull it through the loop on my thumb, and then I'm going to swish it open. I'm opening with my fingers, not pulling down, but opening. So up the thumb into the loop, go grab a strand and pull it through, swish. I am tensioning these so that they are equal distant apart. I'm not making them as tight as they could be. I'm just making them even. This is exactly what we're doing with knitting. We're opening up a stitch and pulling through a strand, opening up a loop and pulling through a strand. The loop and the stitch is basically the same thing. So I'm going to keep doing this until I have the number of stitches I want. Usually 10 is good to start with. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. How about 12? A nice even dozen. When I'm done, if I feel it's necessary, I can do a little half hitch knot here just to kind of keep it from slipping, but that's entirely up to you. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is my long tail cast on. This is my first row of knitting. If I turn it over, I'm going to see these little bumps on the back, and those are the purls. So this is the purl side, and this is the knit side. Every stitch, if I knit it, the front looks like a knit stitch and the back looks like a purl. It's 2 sides of the same coin. So there are my knits and there are my purls. We're going to knit a row. So here we go. You're looking at the palm of the hand, coming in between the ring finger and the pinky. Then I'm going to rotate over with my hand, and I'm going to put my first finger right under that yarn. Make it so that the yarn comes under and behind the needle. This is just the cut end, just ignore it. And I'm going to put my hand over top of the needle. Notice my fingers kind of riding on top of the needle, not clutching, not wrapping, just riding. Okay, now I'm going to give myself about 1 inch to work with here, loosening up my pinky a little bit just to give 1 inch. Okay, now I am going to do basically what we just did with a long tail cast on. I'm going to use my right needle, also holding overhand, nice and light in my fingertips. I'm going to come in here and open up that stitch, that loop. I'm going to go behind that yarn. I can use my first finger to hold it if I need to. And I'm going to pop it right through the loop or the stitch. And then I'm going to move it off the needle, off the left needle, and I'm going to keep it on the right needle. Let's do that again. I'm going to go in and open up that stitch and grab that yarn and pull it through the stitch. And then I'm going to move the stitch off the left needle and keep this one on the right needle. Okay, 2 stitches done. I'm going to go down the way. A couple of things you might want to observe. The yarn is flowing over my pinky, through my hand, and over my first finger at just the right rate. So I just bring a little bit each time. So I grab some, put my finger down a little bit, and then I might need to let a little bit more come up. My middle finger and my thumb are pushing these next stitches towards the point of the needle, and my middle finger is keeping them from falling off. If you drop a stitch, you just put it back on, like oops, I just dropped a stitch. Just put it right back on the needle. in that orientation or in that direction, and that'll do it. Okay, the last one is likely to fall off very easily, so especially pay attention to that one. We get to the end. I'm going to turn it around, switch the empty needle to my right hand, push these guys down to the end, and I'm going to go in and knit this stitch again. Open up and drag it through. So there's the stitch. I'm going in from the left side of the stitch to the back, pulling this around, and then pulling it through and off. In, around, through, and off. And that is basically what we're doing. So we have interconnected loops made from a single strand, and that is going to produce this nice stretchy fabric we call knit. I want to show you what we are creating, and that is rows of knit stitches on the side we're knitting on. So right there, that is a knit stitch. That loop, that's the right leg of the loop and the left leg of the loop, and that kind of creates a nice little flat stitch. There's another stitch, and they're going to be created in columns. I'm going to create columns of stitches, one row at a time. On the back, like I said, is going to be the purl, and so that little bump right there is the purl, and that purl is really just the head of the stitch. So once I get rows of, if I knit every side, every row, I am going to get also rows of purls every other row, and I'm going to get that on both sides. So I have a row of purls here. That was my cast on row. Then I have another row of purls here, and then in between I have knit stitches, and on the back those knit stitches will present as purls. So right there are the purls, and right there's another row of purls. If I keep creating this, knitting every row, every side, I'm going to end up with what's called a garter stitch fabric, and it's just really stretchy, really thick, got a little bit more texture to it. This is the stitch that I want to knit next. If I brought it over the top and pulled it over, it falsely appears as though I have two stitches that I could knit. And I could knit both of those, and then I'm going to wonder why I'm having more stitches on my needle every time. So that is one way you could go wrong. Under and to the back. Well, I'm going to knit one more row. This is the right side of my work. That cast on gives you a nice little braid or a twist on the front side of your work. So I know this is the wrong side of my work with that initial row of purls, and I do want the purls to be on the wrong side of my work. So let us purl this row. I see purls right here, and now I'm going to purl this whole row. So in order to do that, purling is exactly opposite of knitting. So I'm going to bring the yarn to the front. I'm going to bring the needle in from the back to the front and from the right to the left. So I'm going to come in this way. I'm going to drop the yarn over that needle and bring it out the back and off. So I'm still going in, over, out, and off. In, over, out, and off. When I do this, I'm tensioning out my stitches. I'm coming in, I'm dragging it out. Instead of leaving it big like this, I'm pulling my first finger up. And that is now a purl row. So this is the first time that I've done two purl rows back to back. And you may think they look very much similar, like this whole thing looks very similar. But watch what happens when I pull it open. You can see down here we have those knit rows in between, but here we do not. Those purl rows are right up against each other. So now that I'm on the front, you can see I've created a slightly different looking fabric. This fabric has all the knits to one side and all these purls to the other side. So now I'm going to knit again. So I'm coming in, around, through, and off. The yarn is being held to the back, just opening up the stitch and dragging that yarn through it. That's all it is. That's the basic game plan. I'm going to turn it over. Now I'm going to move the yarn to the front, and my needle's coming in at me. And I'm just opening up those stitches and dragging that yarn through again, just from the front to the back. And that just lands the head of the stitch or the purl on the side facing me. Okay, so there we have it. Right here, I have the garter stitch fabric, which is purl, row, knit row. And in order to create this, I knitted every side. I get that stretchy fabric that's thicker. Now I have all the purls on one side and I have all the knits on the other side. And this creates a nice flat fabric that is going to grow a little faster in height, and it is going to be a traditional knit fabric. Just looking at my sweater right here, I have all knits to one side, and right here I have all the purls on the other side. And all of this right here is rib stitch, which is a knit and then a purl and a knit and a purl. So let me just show you that very quickly. I can alternate rows of knits and rows of purls to get stockinette fabric, but now I'm going to alternate a knit stitch with a purl stitch, and I'm going to get a rib. So going in as if to knit, bringing the yarn back between the needles, going in as if to purl, between the needles to the back. So I'm going to do this real slow. That's the knit. And that's the purl. And I can just repeat knit and purl. Okay, when I turn it over, I am going to do what I see. So if I see a knit, which I do here, it looks like a V, I'm going to go in there and knit it. Here's the head of the stitch, that bump, that's the purl, so I'm going to purl it. That's a knit, so I'll knit it. Right there's the purl it. And if I did this right, I just go down knit, purl, knit, purl. I'm going to do 2 more rows just so you can see what that looks like when it's done. This is the right side. This was my initial braided edging on the cast on. Then I did 4 rows of garter stitch, and then I did several rows of stockinette stitch, and then I have this rib stitch, column of knit, column of purl, column of knit, column of purl. You can see the purls recede and the knits pop out, and that's going to be able to be used for design advantages and many things. Let me show you how to bind off real quick. So in order to bind off, we are going to work the first few stitches. I can bind off in rib, or I can bind off in knit, or I can bind off in purl. So you just have to work 2 stitches. I am going to bind off in rib, so I'm going to knit the knits and purl the purls. And then what I'm going to do is just hook that first stitch, and I'm going to take it over the second stitch and off the needle. And that stitch is now lying right there. So now I'm going to do that again. This is a knit stitch, so I'm going to knit it, and then I'm going to pick the stitch up and pull it over top and off the end of the needle. And now I have 2 stitches. There's the first stitch and there's the second stitch. That's a purl, so I will purl it and I will bind it off. I don't want to do this super tightly. I could pull that really tight, but I'm going to let it breathe a little bit. Knit is stretchy by its characteristics, and so we want to maintain that stretch and not pull it, bind it off too tight. This is the last one. Here we go. And this one I'm just going to pull up. We're ready to cut our end. And I could either pull it through like this and pull it really tight, which gives me a knot. That's doable. Or I can just pull the cut end through and weave it in. I need a yarn needle. Just gonna thread that in there and weave it in, which means I'm going to just kind of trace another yarn strand without it being super obvious. That's the goal. And this is an incredibly rudimentary way to do this, but this is the quick start guide. So if you want more details and more finesse, I will share that with you. But there you have it on one side, and there it is on the other. So you would never see that. And I am going to cut that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side because I want both ends woven in. That is the quick start guide on how to cast on, long tail cast on. Really practical. You could almost get away with the rest of your life nothing but a long tail cast on. Then you learn to make knit stitches. Then you learn to make purl stitches, and then we alternated rows of knits and purls. Then we alternated stitches of knits and purls. Garter stitch fabric, stockinette stitch fabric, rib fabric, and each has its own little characteristics. We then bound off in pattern and wove in our ends. Thank you so much for sticking through it. That was a very compact video with a lot of information in it, and it is something you can unpack slowly over time. So good luck, enjoy the process, give yourself lots of grace to keep practicing, and it will click in, and all of a sudden you'll just be amazed. You can do this.